Back on Snappy Tomato Pizza with Coach Jason Simpson. UT Martin will take on Tennessee State Saturday in a matchup coming up at Graham Stadium. Coach, let's talk about the game with Tennessee Tech. This was back on Thursday. You jumped out to a 28-3 halftime lead, and again, you scored on a Jared Neal run on one of the first plays of the game. Well, 8:14 mark in the first quarter, 4:05 drive. Tech gets a field goal. You hold them to a field goal with 5:48 to go, and then you tack on some more touchdowns in the second quarter. Very solid first half for the Skyhawks.
No, it really was, and you got to get off to a better start defensively. Either the first play where they kind of called us a little bit, and they had a receiver open, they overthrew, and then the second play they run a little screen, and we didn't get to that fast enough. But I thought Ryan Isom made a great play and helped run it down. But then we kind of tightened up a little bit. But yeah, anytime you go in the locker room 28-3, you're pleased. And one of the things I was pleased about is Corey Jordan and Matt Stewart played a lot.
Yeah. And
we were playing them in tight end and fullback roles. And and both those guys, Corey's more of a receiver and Matt's more of an H-back, but they did a great job and allowed us to formation some things and get some certain looks that we wanted to get. Ultimately, you got to execute, though, and they did. And I'm real proud of those two guys.
The score, again, you're leading at the half. And then in the second half, what changed? What was the game changers?
Well, two things. One, you got to give Tennessee Tech some credit. They started blitzing a lot more. They went from a 4-man front to a 3-man front, and basically they said, hey, whatever we did in the first half doesn't work, so now we're going to change some things up. And but then when you go back and watch the tape, you'll see we ripped off a couple good runs, and we get down there, then we get two penalties.
Yeah.
And then we convert on a third down or come up a yard short on a third down on a pass play. So there's one time we had to punt, and so we ended up it was like 1st and 20 on the first drive, but then we still ended up converting, and then got another penalty, and then almost converted again after the penalty. So we have to punt. The defense gives us the offense the ball back, gets a turnover. And another penalty. We ripped off a 9-yard run, and the official called a chop block. And
yep.
It's debatable, it really is. And so that puts you another 15 yards, back. And then I forgot something else happened. So, we were our own worst enemy. I don't know if anybody was actually stopping us at those first two drives. We stopped ourselves. And so that's kind of what happened in the third quarter a little bit. And then because once it starts getting to first, you're up 28-3. And it's 1st and 20, and you run the ball, try to get half of it back or something. Then it's 2nd and 15, and then 3rd and 8. Those you start playing the odds a little bit. Why throw the ball? Why put yourself at high risk and give them a chance to turn the ball over? And that's right. Then we ran the little screen pass to Corey Jordan, and he fumbled it, and they scooped it up. So the first 3 drives, you've shot yourself in the foot with penalties and then a turnover. And so that was the only time I think we had the ball in the third quarter, because I think they went on a decent drive and put the 2 touchdowns up.
Yeah, well, one of their drives that led to the touchdown was 7:09, the time of possession, which to me that was one of the longest drives. I mean, I don't know what the longest drive you remember, but it felt like it took forever.
Which, the good and bad in that. Good is that you're not giving up the big play.
Right.
You're making them, because sooner or later the time's going to run out, or they're going to do something to, like we did in the third quarter, and get a penalty, and you just can't overcome them without those big plays. So proud of that. Like to see us get the stop in the red zone and hold them to another field goal. But, say they got players on scholarships too. And then you get the fourth quarter, we get a good drive going, and then we get down and we fumbled on the 1. And so anyway, so we were getting yards. We didn't come out with a point. So you put that game to 35-17 or something,
Absolutely.
And then you feel a little bit different about the game.
Let's talk about some individual performances. How about DJ McNeil? He gets 24 carries in the game, 168 net yards, 171 on the game, but really solid. He got in a rhythm.
Yeah, except for the fumble, thought he had a great game.
Right.
And that's something that I think that's 2 fumbles for him. I believe. We kind of come to expect that from DJ. I mean, we do. We put hats on people. We expect him to. He's got good vision. He's got good body lean. He runs through tackles. I thought DJ. I think he's individually leading the league in rushing right now. So that's something we're proud of, DJ.
Jared Neal can certainly throw the football, and a lot of people caught the football. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 receivers who caught the ball, and 6 of those had 2 or more catches.
I thought Chris Thompson, had a really good game. That's 2 weeks in a row. Chris has, done some good things. Seems like every time he catches it, it's a big collision. I wish he'd get some cleaner catches and get some yards after the catch, but he's making some catches in some tight coverages.
Tennessee Tech also changed quarterbacks mid-game. We've done that in past years. When you see that, what do you think as a coach?
Well, I'd heard, I think one of the, I forgot who told me, one of our players or something talked to him after the game. I think we had hit him and maybe he'd hurt his hand and had to put some staples or stitches or something in his hand. Yeah. So that's just what I was told. So I think, that was more, because he was playing okay. He really was. He had some decent numbers.
And then, again, defensively, man, did Cameron Harris have a game.
Well, if you hear the defensive coaches, they think it should be better. They think he left 2 to 3 other interceptions on the field, and he did. If you watch it on tape, one went right off his hands. Another time he slipped. He could have probably been the national player of the week. But very, very, very proud of Cameron, though. Cameron's come a long way. He's given us a lot of stability over there at that corner position. So I'm hopefully he'll continue that and even get better the second part of the season.
He had 9 tackles, all solo. That's career high for him, an interception and 3 pass breakups. And that interception came on the first play of a Golden Eagle drive in the fourth quarter, I thought, which was a pretty big momentum swing.
No, it was. They get a score there, right? I think it's an 11-point game at the time. And so the defense stepped up and did a great job and got the ball back.
It looked to me like one of those where he could have gotten it, he slipped, and that several people were slipping in this game. I don't know if you noticed it.
Yeah, and their turf's in good shape. There's a big crown on that field.
Yeah, does that matter?
It does throwing the ball. I mean, you're throwing downhill.
Now explain, and I don't know what the difference is between the sideline elevation and the middle of the field, but
it's different. I mean, it's different per field, and I forgot what the regulations is as far as, but their field has a tremendous crown on it then, and so it takes a little getting used to when it comes to throwing the football. It's like one of those old fields where even though they've got a new surface on it, the elevation of it's like used to be, back in the 80s. Teams that run the option like Oklahoma and Nebraska, and I've never seen it, but coaches would say that you could look across the field and you couldn't even see the feet of the visiting player.
Right, because the crown's in the
crown, because they wanted to be, to run downhill, when they started running option and, get downhill, plus the drainage and, things like that. So, but the field was really,
I think it makes a difference on kickoffs and punts, too.
I don't know how it doesn't, but, they're used to it, and I guess we finally adjusted.
Watson Brown's their coach. The two of you go back. It was pretty neat looking at the game notes. You actually played for him, but he was an assistant coach, right?
Yeah, he was my position coach, and so it's always neat to see him before the game. We always have very cordial conversation and, see what's going on in each other's families. And he always says, "Now, how old are you again?" And, every year I'm like, only a year older than I was last year. And, and he says, "Man, I'm getting old," because I think he told me he's 63.
Wow.
He's 63, and he's been coaching a long time. And so, it was always good to, I respect Watson a lot and think a lot of him.
I was going to ask you, we don't know this as fans, but before a game, when do you talk to the head coach of the opposing team, and does it always, is it a standard that it always happens?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's just kind of unwritten. Courtesy is that before a game you kind of seek out that head coach. And
do you do it normally if you're the home coach, or is it?
If you're the home coach, you usually try to seek him out, because it's your lay of the land. Because usually as a home coach, you're running a little bit later than normal because visiting with recruits.
Yeah.
And as a visiting coach, you don't have those kind of responsibilities, and so you're out there on the field with your team a little bit earlier in pregame. So that's just kind of go. Pretty much, I guess, in 8 years, I don't know how many games that is, almost 100 games now.
Yes,
90-something games. I think every place but Jeff Bauer at Southern Miss, who I played for, who didn't seek me out, and I guess that ought to tell me what he thinks of me. But I think that was, like I said, recruits, and I think some things came up. The guy at South Florida. But that was, he was running sprints before the game on the end. He said that's how he got how he got his adrenaline under control before the game. I think that's probably the only two.
That's it.
That's it. And I'm pretty sure that's it.
Wow. And then, so how early is this prior to kickoff?
Well, you're out on the field. Your team's out there an hour before kickoff. You can be out there 20 minutes before the game. At 20 minutes on the clock before kickoff, you got to come in and get off the field for the band and for the pregame stuff. So so if it's a 1 o'clock kickoff by 12. and that's about the time that the specialists and other players are coming out there, and that's when you kind of have a few minutes to say hello. And so,
And in 06, this was your first year as head coach.
Yeah.
And this was your first time to have to go through this, because as an assistant coach, you don't mess with this.
No, you were just worried about your guys, making sure your guys are dressed right, on time, and ready to go. So it's just a common courtesy. You may say things like, "Hey, was your stay okay? Where'd you guys stay at? Was accommodations okay? How's It's usually sometimes you've either coached against each other or who'd you play last week? What do you think about that team? And just pleasantries like that.
Okay, what happens after the game?
Short
That's
and sweet.
quick.
And like I said, there's so much emotion,
Right.
because both staffs and team has worked so hard in the week, and it's just a quick, hey, good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this week, I think I told Watson, hey, glad we didn't have to play another quarter.
Yeah.
And I think he said, Jason, did a great job, and shake hands,
was
and you move on. I've told the story before. I remember playing Auburn, and the little scare we put into them, and Tuberville leans over and says, hey, I wish you'd leave your quarterback and your wide receiver here with me. Because Cade and Michael Hicks had played really well. So that's about the extent of it, and then you move on from there.
It amazes me now, the players, some games you can tell that there's, as John Abel calls it on the sideline, some extracurricular activity. I mean, there's a lot of mouthing and pushing and stuff going on. And sometimes after those games, I expect there to be more than just shaking hands, but sometimes it just seems like, it's over, guys. Let's just shake hands and say good battle.
It really is. That's something I've never worried about is confrontation after the game. I'm really never worried about that, because kids are really resilient, and once the buzzer goes off, I mean, that's it. And usually there's somebody on that other team that somebody on our team went to high school with, played against in high school.
Right.
There's usually some type of common bond there. And it's always funny during the game, the guys that tend to be jawing, or if it's our players, it's the ones that aren't in the game, the ones that so we have to keep an eye on that until guys, calm themselves down. Because when you're playing, you just don't have time for that. You got to play, and there's so many things you got to concentrate on, and that can kind of take your concentration away.
Yeah, and as a coach, you want to see your players, like in the NBA this past week, one of the teams had a fight during practice, and Jason Kidd is the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets now, and they asked him after the game, or after the practice, what he thought about his own players fighting with each other, and he said, that's great. I mean, that's what I want to see, that competitive spirit. It's different, obviously, at a college level, but you need to see that competitive spirit and that fight in them, but at the same time, if it goes one step too far, then they're hurting your team.
There's a fine line. I mean, there is, and that's it's always the guy with the second punch, usually, and your adrenaline's going, and, especially D lineman. I mean, that is such a such a physical, position. I mean, you're trying to get after the quarterback. You're trying to defeat blocks. You've got an offensive lineman trying to cut you and cut your knees and get you on the ground. And it is a physical, combat zone. And then all of a sudden, right before the whistle blows, or right as the whistle blows, the offensive lineman, pops you in the face.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's your natural reaction, to whether to defend yourself or to punch back. And so, I think our players have done a good job with that of calming themselves down. Even Montori, when he was here, I mean, he would, he's yelling at everybody in the stands, because that's his way of having fun and flying around. But he did a nice job, to turn the switch off, get ready for the next
when
play.
He needed to. In a game, it's so emotional. I forgot my train of thought what I was going to ask you, but I know what I was going to ask you. At the high school level, I think that you can psych out your opponent when you're standing facing each other on the field. But at this level, I mean, with these guys who are 18 to 23 years old, is there an intimidation factor at this level?
No, I don't think so. I think once the ball snaps, it's pretty much who delivers the hammer or the nail type deal. Whoever's the most physical, that sets the tempo for the rest of the game. And our players do a nice job from the standpoint of over the years. And I've learned this from our team. I really have. And you go out there, and I remember that 06 team, and you'd look, and whether it be Tennessee State or Eastern Illinois, they just were so much bigger than us.
Yeah.
The offensive line were 6'5" plus, and I don't think we had anybody, over 6'3". And I just get to where I wouldn't look down there at them, because if you look at the size of the two teams, you'd think that we were going to be the severe underdog. But that's not always the case.
even in the NFL, I think sometimes, Coach, when there's a hard hit, there's some guys who are known as play dirty, but some of the guys, they just pat each other on the back, and it's like, we're all millionaires here. Let's go back and do another play.
Well,
there's a mutual respect, I guess, is the word.
No, there is, and and as you watch tape, I mean, you kind of see which backs are going to run through tackles and be physical, and you kind of gear up. I mean, people gear up for DJ McNeil. I mean, they do. They know that he's leading the league in rushing. He's going to get under his pads, and I'm sure people take that as a challenge. In the same way for us, we better do that this week because we're facing an outstanding back ourselves.
And I guess, I don't know, you can help develop toughness, but I don't know if you could never recruit a player who just didn't have it instilled in him.
No, it's they'll say they don't bite as puppies. They won't bite as they get older. No, there's a lot of truth to that. Now, I will say that there's some DBs and that they've learned to become more physical. I mean, there really is. I mean, Kevin Barfield's a good example. Like, Kevin's a wide receiver, and we used to be very critical of him from a blocking standpoint. He switched over to defense, and he has a totally different mentality now that he's on defense. Now, one, it's a lot more fun to hit than to be hit.
Yeah.
And not that he was ever scared. I'm not saying that, but it was just different body language. And so I'm very proud of him once he made that switch over.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll look at the OVC this past week and talk about Tennessee State. Again, that's at Graham Stadium, the opponent coming up Saturday. And that is a 12 o'clock start for us on the radio and a 1 o'clock kickoff. More coming up on the UT Martin Skyhawk Sports Network.